And audio rolls.
Would you like a clap, just in case?
Sure, I'll let you. That's your job.
There we go.
Welcome to Filmmakers Blend Podcast. I'm your host, Adam K. Allen, and thank you for joining us for our very first episode. Today, I'm very glad to have my friend and fellow Ball State alumni, Elizabeth Wolford.
Hey.
Liz is a location and post-sound audio engineer based out of Indianapolis, Indiana. For now, she's actually getting ready to move to Savannah, Georgia, and will soon become Professor Liz Wolford, where she will be teaching sound design at Savannah College of Art and Design starting in the fall 2024 quarter. Liz got her MFA from SCAD, but as I said, she and I both graduated from Ball State, where she got her bachelor's. Liz has worked on numerous features, shorts, and corporate videos that include Disciples in the Moonlight, which recently completed a 800 theatrical run.
Yep.
Which is insane.
Yes.
She's also worked on Extraction USA, M30 Oxy, and Pursuit of Freedom, just to name a few of the projects. Her experience has allowed her to work on multiple sets as a location sound mixer and boom operator, and that work follows her to her studio for post-sound editing and mixing, and we will include links to her work and where you can find Liz in the description. But Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you took the time out to be on this. I know it's our first episode, so I'm very glad to have you here. So, I mean, you know, the purpose of this podcast is to, number one, just to highlight individuals in the industry and to talk about what got you into the industry, why do you love doing what you do, but also to talk about that creation process and that collaborative process involved in it. So honestly, I have to start with, what drew you to media to begin with?
Oh my gosh. Let's try to make a long story short. In high school, middle school, elementary, I was just the biggest band geek ever. I learned how to play the violin in 4th, 5th grade, and I think that's really what tuned my ear. And then was involved in band, orchestra, marching band. I did flute. In high school, I was also drum major, and then piccolo at Ball State.
I don't know why, but I always feel like, were you a bass drummer too? Yes,
I did bass drum, winter drum line in high school during the winter, where we put on marching shows in gymnasiums and competed and stuff. I really enjoyed that. Basically anything band I was in. Biggest band geek ever. So when I initially went to Ball State, I thought that I was going to be doing like bands and stuff and be in recording studios. And they do have a music technology degree, but when I was there, it just wasn't for me, and I felt like TCOM fit me better in my personality and everything. So through TCOM, I didn't just learn film, but TV, music, also broadcast and radio, basically anything related to audio you could learn there. So I felt like I would get a much more rounded education while I was there. And then it was actually Ireland, which we were both a part of. Yes. We got to study abroad in Ireland and do 4 short films. I did the location and post for 2 of them. That's where I really found my niche in audio. And I felt like, you know, especially when you're mixing, it's kind of like you're mixing a full piece orchestra when you're in post for a film or a short, even corporate stuff too, if it can get pretty, you know, extensive. So yeah, it was Ireland that really drew me to films and media, and I found that I was, I believe, pretty good at it. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think you're passable. You're passable.
Oh, thanks.
I'm lying. She's incredible.
Thank you.
The funny thing was, like, yeah, we were both on Ireland, and the thing is, so we didn't work together because I remember, you know, the way that was set up is that, you know, 4 crews, 4 films, 4 days a week, 2 on, 2 off. So, you know, you would swap out and you would be dark crew for one of the other crews, but we were not on each other's dark crews at all.
No.
We interacted on like the outings and stuff, but like past that, the first film we actually worked on was a 48-hour film. We did Home, where we had the the body in the bathtub and all the chocolate.
It was a family film.
Exactly,
remember?
Family film.
We drew family film and decided to do a murder twist
because
on
it focused on a family.
Yeah, we didn't want a bland 48-hour film. So
no, of course not. No, it's crazy, and you mentioned it before we started rolling, and it made my back hurt more than usual. that Ireland was almost a decade ago.
Almost a decade. That's
And
insane.
ow,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
hurts
Next
now.
year would be 10 years.
Oh Lord! So we're going back for an anniversary. We're gonna go back and film another film,
Yes,
right? That's what
yes.
we're gonna do. We have no idea what we're gonna
That's
film.
the goal.
You know.
So everyone who is a part of that,
Yeah,
keep your
get
schedules
thinking.
open.
We'll do a 48-hour film in Ireland, and we're gonna confuse the locals
On the
more.
cliffs of Hoth. So it
Oh,
sounds
there
great.
Well, so we were just talking about we go way back. We go all the way back to college. There was, I hate to call it an epidemic for a variety of reasons, but I know talking with a couple other individuals who are still at the university, there's been an ongoing problem of everyone focuses on video.
Yeah.
So few people focus on audio. Why audio for you?
Why audio for me? Well, not just my music background and everything, but I saw a lot of potential in the story making aspect of audio, because it really just extends the world off the screen. It just makes everything pop off the screen. And also I learned video, it can look great. It can look the best, but if the audio isn't that great, no one's going to watch it,
Yep.
or everyone's going to complain about it. So really audio makes or breaks your project. So I also found that, people really appreciate really solid sound engineers. So in a way, it also keeps me employed.
This is very true. So thinking about that, how audio makes or breaks a film, this is a just completely random thought. What are your thoughts, or maybe you know the answer to this? I know a lot of people complain about TV shows and movies nowadays where either the audio is mixed so loud it blows your eardrums out before someone talks, or the music is mixed so loud that you can't hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's something you keep in mind anytime you're on a narrative project in particular. But what's with that?
What's with that? It can be a number of things. It could be, people's entertainment systems and whatnot. Also, a lot of films and stuff, they're mixed for the theater in mind, and then when it's down mixed to stereo, things can get wonky and stuff. But Christopher Nolan, he has wonderful films, but he does have an unconventional approach to dialogue and
Such a
audio and
professional
stuff.
approach.
Yes.
professional
Whereas
way to phrase that.
don't blame the sound team, because it really is all the director's final
Right.
say and stuff, especially when it comes to creative audio. But he even said himself, he's sometimes you don't need to hear the dialogue within things. And to me, I'd rather hear it, especially if it's, vital to
Yeah.
the story. So to me, I think it's a mix of things, and just people are starting to, I've just noticed in general, pay more attention to audio. So
We have so many more people that are I don't watch anything without the subtitles on anymore.
Yeah.
And that's, I have to do that sometimes for the same reason, I can't understand what's being said because it's mixed at such a weird level.
Which now I think of that too, because I hate it when I can't hear audio. I do a thing like sidechain compression in post, so that when dialogue is over, it'll duck certain frequencies in the music or the backgrounds or the effects, so that the mids of people's voices will pop out more. So that's something that I've been doing, and I found that helps my mixes quite a lot.
Gotcha.
And also just in general, since I'm hearing a mix 500 times, I always get other people's opinions as well when it comes to levels and everything.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess this is a great way to segue into this. When you are working with a client, what's your general process when you are working with a client? What is that like for you?
So for a creative film, feature, short, I always tell people, everyone, the earlier you get audio involved, the better your project is going to sound and the better things are going to flow, etc. So that's my number one thing. It's I don't just talk with them and go over the script and everything. I'm also hey, for locations, take me to location scouting, because then I'll have a better idea of what I need to navigate. I can also talk to owners of locations to see what I can turn off and what I can't, so that when I get there on set, I'm prepared and not going, oh man, I didn't know this and this and this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Which the film Disciples in the Moonlight that you mentioned, there was a cafe that we were filming at, and the owner of the cafe wouldn't allow us to turn off several fridges due to, food going bad and everything.
That makes
totally
sense.
understand.
Yeah.
So we had to put up a whole bunch of like furniture blankets, sound blankets, like all over this diner and stuff to quell all of that.
Just to make a giant wall length baffle.
Yeah. So it's like things like that. If I can get to location earlier, I can go, okay, then I'll need to be there earlier to set up all these sound blankets and stuff. Because if you run into certain things, it may cause production to fall behind. So that's what I said, like on set, like get me there as early in the process as possible. Also, like going through the script, I look for anything that could involve any kind of design or anything, especially like VO or off-screen dialogue and whatnot. You definitely want to talk about that to make sure, like, oh, this off-screen dialogue, do you want it to sound like it's, say, a scene taking place here? Do you want it to sound like it's here? Or would you rather, record it in studio and make it sound different? So it's a lot of that, figuring out, like sitting down with the script and figuring out, what's done on set, what's done post-set. And then a lot of the creative stuff really comes in post after the edit. Always want picture lock before you send it to audio because it's just, I won't go into it, but doing time code changes in the middle of edits and mixing is just very time consuming.
Did I tell you the screw up we made in our Island film?
No. Evergreen?
Yeah, in Evergreen.
Yeah.
We, for when we were filming in the States, we never had, apparently, the internal mics running. Oh. So we had no sync point.
Yeah.
So I had to manually go through and line up where the clapper went down to where it spiked in the waveform. I got pretty good at that. Because I had to do that for like 6 scenes of just like, and there. Okay, move on to the next. That was like a fun week.
Which kind of segues into something like on set, like I talk with the camera department to figure out like, cables for time code or hops and other things. Yeah. And just always talking with your camera crew and gaffing, electric, etc. So you make sure you're out of their way and not causing any shadows and stuff. So it basically, a lot of audio, even though it's quiet on set, requires a lot of communication. And that's something that like I stress within SCAD's curriculum and stuff that I'll be building is audio is not just sticking a mic in the air. It's so much more involved.
So that made me think, so I'm really curious because I know, remind me again what your focus was, your thesis was for your master's.
My master's at SCAD, my thesis was over re-recording mixing for 7.1 and stereo.
Gotcha, okay. So. But you also did a fair amount of work doing Foley.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I was listening to another show that I really enjoy, and one of the hosts, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to catch that flack if somehow that got around. He made a comment that he does not believe in bespoke Foley anymore because he thinks there are enough sound libraries that you can find. I think he's like not saying like for footsteps.
Yeah.
And every time I hear that, my first thought is, I have a feeling Liz would have opinions on this.
Yes, I do.
I mean, so what are your thoughts like when people, because, I mean, we live in the AI age.
Yeah.
For better or for worse. And you made a good comment earlier when we were just chatting about how AI is inevitable in our industry. Yeah. I mean, we just had multiple strikes about that with varying results. And I know there are talks of there might be another strike coming up with IATSE, whatever their contract negotiations come around. What are your thoughts about that if someone were to say, like, we don't need to do Foley because there's already a sound library that exists, or AI can generate that for us?
Well, talking about AI, it's gotten to the point where we need to work with it instead of fighting against it. And SCAD, their next focus within their entire college is AI this next coming year. So it is something I've been thinking about. And when it comes to like Foley and stuff, it just always sounds so much better when you have someone performing the movements and whatnot. I could see with like footsteps, I've had to do it before, cut footsteps to a picture. It takes forever, but it's doable. But it's just so much easier to get someone in there performing and whatnot. And now thinking about it, a great video to watch, there's a YouTube channel called Soundworks Collection. Okay. And one of my favorite film mixes ever still to this day is Hacksaw Ridge.
Okay.
And Mel Gibson, he directed it. He did a whole interview about how they approached the sound and everything. And he talked about the Foley, how he wanted everything to be organic and using the actual things that they used on set and whatnot. And he didn't reuse a single sound in that film. And you can tell there's a huge difference. Yeah. It brings so much more life into it. Also just syncing wise, when you're using sound effects, you have to like cut things and everything. It's just so time consuming. So like it's possible, but I feel like it brings so much more life to your film if you actually perform your Foley for sure.
No, I've had that where I've had to use like a stock sound effect for something. I think it was like for just a personal thing. It was nothing major. But like what I typically ran into was duration. It was never the right duration. Yeah. And like I could spend 30 minutes tweaking it. It's like, okay, if I do this or like add this reverb, reduce this reverb, and it just never is right. If you aren't able to capture that live, it's like this is the exact duration I want, or whatever, build it to suit the project.
Yeah. And that's something just reminded me, like trying to get as much Foley as you can on set is imperative. It saves a lot of time in post and it makes sure everything sounds great, especially another thing, performing over doing a sound effects library. When you perform it, you'll make sure that your microphones are the same microphones that were used on set, because that does make a difference. Yeah. They all have different frequency responses and whatnot. It's going to sound different. So it's just way more cohesive when you perform and much less time consuming too.
Well, and it to this individual's like point, I don't think he was saying don't do Foley at all.
Okay.
I think he was saying like you don't need to do Foley for every single sound effect in post.
Okay.
I think he was like he made the point of like get it on set, and if you don't have it on set, there are the libraries. You don't have to do Foley for every single sound effect. Now, I do disagree with him. I agree with you on that. I'm like, I can see where you might come from that. Is that something that you have to kind of like keep in mind in your process with clients? Is if we look more at the corporate side, we're not frequently looking at sound effects for corporate, unless we're doing like it's a commercial or something like that. But I mean, like, how much do you plan ahead? Then, like you're saying, you sit down with the scripts and everything. How far are you planning ahead in regards to what you might have to Foley?
Obviously, looking through the the script and everything. But what's crucial is watching rehearsals. Sometimes it might be the day before a shoot or right before you do a scene, doing rehearsals, seeing what actors are interacting with and all this kinds of stuff. Because then I can have a discussion like, hey, I want to grab these things or keep these props to the side so that I can Foley them later if, we're on a time crunch. Also, during rehearsals and stuff, I can see if I'm going to be able to grab all the audio that I need dialogue-wise, because if not, I could go, hey, we need to run wilds, which is basically off-screen ADR. It's not sync to picture at all, but if you do it right after a scene, usually the actors are still in that mind space and can recreate their delivery. So, because that's another thing. I hate ADR with a passion. I avoid it so much.
Nothing like doing the same line 15 times.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, my job on location is to make post life super easy, which is why I'm really glad I have a post background as well. Because if you want to do audio, it's good to have experience in both areas, so you know how both can come together and work the best. So.
I've always personally thought that if you're in a directorial, producerial, or like just some kind of supervisor role, you should have a basic grasp of every single position.
Pretty much.
Because then that way you know how to interact with your audio crew, you know how to interact with your G&E, you know how to work with camera, makeup, casting, so on and so forth. And for me, like, so Ireland, like you said, Ireland was kind of like an awakening for you of what you really wanted to do. It was the same for me, because that was the first time I'd ever directed anything.
That was the first time I did any audio.
Right. Like that was a huge moment, and that for me just it showed me how much I love directing. But before that, I had always wanted to be a special effects editor.
Okay.
And then I worked on a film in college where I did some very, very, very minor effects stuff, and I realized, wow, I hate this.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
It was just like we didn't really have any proper training for it, because that wasn't a point. This was an undergrad thing, obviously. So that's not a strike against the curriculum. That's just like, you don't need to focus on special effects. You need to learn how to do the job. But as a result, I had a lot of editing experience, and I found that having that editing background helps me as a director, because I'm already putting the picture together in my mind of, I already know how I want this to cut together. Because I already know what's the process, what are things that can be done, what can't be done in post. And I'm not having to fight with that later in post. Let me know if you feel the same way. Like on set, if you have to make something up on the fly, you have an idea of how it will cut or how it can be cleaned. And so you can go ahead and make that call of, we can skip this because I can fix it in post. Dangerous words. Or you can say, now we need to do this again so that we can fix this and make it right when we're cutting. I mean, is that like similar for you in the audio realm?
Oh yeah, thinking on your feet, learning how to work around different things and whatnot. Because there have been some difficult locations I've dealt with, which I was just on set a few weeks ago on a film called Lake Day with our friend Nicole Lehrman. Abby Erbick was there too, Juliana Silva, all these people we've worked with.
I was there for a day.
Oh yeah, duh. We borrowed Adam's car for a day. But the few days after that, we were actually like in the lake, and there.
You first, apparently.
Oh yeah. I was wearing my mixer. I had my boom. I was like up to here in water and stuff. So we had to be careful and everything. But we were also dealing with shadows. So I learned like I had to adjust my boom a lot in order to get things. And then like this was the water. I had the boom like this close to the water because of like shadows and framing and things. So it's like
when you're working with a reflective surface too.
Yeah, and also another tip is like learning like what 50, like what that looks like and all that stuff, so that on the fly, if you're on a time crunch, okay, this is my framing. I can make sure the boom stays out of the shot and everything. So that's another thing you work with on camera is like, screen tests and stuff. And
know where to place your boom or where you need to hide mics.
The closer the better, believe me. You don't want to just throw it out there.
You don't want to use a 15mm lens and just get a wide panoramic and still need the
we hate
the boom
stupid wides. Stupid wides.
No, absolutely. So thinking about all that, when you were jumping back and forth between here's the narrative world, here's the corporate world, here's commercial, does your approach differ depending on the genre, if you will?
Yes.
Okay.
Especially with like corporate videos, there are more things that you can kind of get away with, like, keeping the AC on or something because there's going to be a music bed, or, you're working with people who aren't really thinking of like, audio and all this kinds of stuff. So I have to approach it as like, okay, these people aren't really familiar with what I do and all these things, so that the conversation's a bit different, because, the product is so much different from film and narrative where you're thinking more creatively and everything. So, yeah, those discussions can be different because, on corporate, it's more just getting the dialogue.
Right.
Whereas, narrative, it's fully sound effects, special effects, and working with all different departments and wardrobe, stunt coordinators, and all that. Like, it's like I always tell people that corporate and narrative, they're two totally different beasts, but the basics are still pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They are drastically different worlds, but the basics apply on how do you approach a project. I think that totally makes sense. So when you are on these larger projects, and when you're on, was it last year that you did like 2-3 features like back to back, or you did like 3 short films and a feature?
I did. Well, about a year and a half ago, we filmed Disciples in the Moonlight. Gotcha. And before that, I was in Kentucky on M30 Oxy. So yeah, I'll have a link to all these films, but a lot of films I was a part of are now getting into their festival runs, especially Extraction USA as well. That's getting the festival circuit. A lot of films out there. So
Nice.
yeah.
So when you are approaching a long-term project like that, whether you're just doing the location or you're doing post or both, how far ahead are you typically prepping? Like, are you already creating a map for the audio for the entire project while you're still in pre-production, or are you kind of like taking it in chunks along the way?
I kind of take it in chunks along the way because you never know what you're going to encounter. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. You know, you can end up on locations and then have to completely change things around. So it's like, I've got the basics laid down. I've already, gone through the script and everything. So a lot of times I'm doing the post as well. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, I need all these lines, I need whiles here, need to make sure I got a separate folder and stuff for Foley and all these other things. So I'm kind of thinking as I'm going along, but throughout location, I'm making sure I've got the foundation for post there, especially if someone else is doing post. I'm making sure that everything is clearly labeled, and sound reports are huge because it's not just like time code and stuff that it gives, but notes, also what mics were used, and if like, hey, I know these lines were rough for pretty much all the takes, so I got wilds, and yeah. So it's a thing where I'm thinking about it as I go along,
Right.
and that's really a skill that you have to build as you do it. Because I always say, like, the only way you're going to learn audio is by doing it.
Right.
It's not something that you can just sit down and teach someone.
Right.
So.
And so here's a thought. How do you feel like, how much have you learned outside of school versus what you learned in school? And not being a knock to anyone, not being a knock to anybody's curriculum.
No.
Professor Liz. But I mean, it really, like, how do you feel your education prepared you before going into the field? And then what was the learning curve like once you got into the field?
So in the classroom and everything, I remember someone said it's like school is the best time to make mistakes because you're not going to be dealing with clients and everything. So in school, it was a lot of like experimenting and finding out what actually works and, the flow and everything. And I always say that I'm pretty sure this goes for any film school. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. Because in order to really learn what we did at Ball State, we had to be heavily involved outside the classroom. So it's like in the classroom, it's kind of like you're learning the basics and everything, and that's where you can ask a lot of questions and, make the mistakes, have the liberty to make mistakes. And so then outside the classroom, it was a lot of just learning as I went. Obviously, the past 10 years, my confidence has really grown and I learn a lot more. There's still things that I run into all the time. Like I always say, you're constantly learning. And even if someone's been in the industry for a year, like there's still something you can learn from them because there's always something new coming out and everything. So I'd have to say most of what I learned has been outside of the classroom. But in the classroom, what really helped was like learning the basics and growing your confidence too. You have more confidence when you're on set. Networking, especially, because the number one thing in this industry, if you're going into media, film, etc., is networking, knowing your people. Because like the past year and a half or so, I haven't had to search for work. It's come to me, which I'm sure with Fierce Little Bird, it feels great,
Yeah, it's when you get past that hump of you spend 90% of your time looking for work and 10% of it somehow getting to you, and that flips to, I think we're past a 50-50. It's probably more like a 75-25, I think, of, no, let me flip that. Maybe it is a 50-50 of searching versus someone finding me. But I will say, I think the caffeine's kicking in because I think it's entirely wrong. I have a lot more work that comes to me than I do spend the time searching.
Yeah.
And that is making the asks and networking and working in the collaborative process that is media.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Laura, I know I've reached out to you on a couple different projects because I'm always happy whenever we're able to have you on set, and I'm very sad that we're losing you.
I know.
At least during the academic year.
I can still freelance in the summer.
There we go. All right, so any potential clients, we're loading everything into the summer, and maybe winter, maybe.
Yeah, I've got like a month and a half off in the winter. So hey, that's a great thing about being a teacher. It's built-in time off.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I felt the same way that what we had in college was great for giving us the foundations to then springboard and build off that. And I know, like, we've had people I'm sure you've had it, I've had people tell me this, but like, they hear that we went to Ball State, and again, not a knock to any other curriculum, but they hear we went to Ball State and went, oh, okay, yeah, their program's really good, they know what they're doing.
Yep.
And I believe that still is true, and I know, so I'm on the media. Does that feel weird that it's not TCOM anymore?
Yeah.
That it's media.
I'm always going to
it
call it
makes
TCOM.
Sense.
Yeah.
I know, because like back in our day, it was TCOM.
Yeah.
But media does make more sense in reality. But I'm on the alumni board for that, and so like I've gotten to hear a lot of the curriculum changes that are coming down the pike. And I gotta say, I'm stoked for the students.
Good.
I'm also kind of jealous.
Yeah.
I mean, the studios just went through a massive renovation.
Oh, awesome.
Did you hear about any of that?
No.
Oh yeah, no. They did like a whole overhaul of CD&E.
Nice.
And I mean, like, and Derek Hammer like helped with the lighting change, lighting rigging, because they got whole new lights in the studios that they're actually going to teach the students how to operate.
Oh, that's cool.
So they'll be able to work in a studio setting.
Yeah.
No, they've got a lot coming down the pike there that I'm very excited for the students to have that access and to get that hands-on training. But yeah, the networking aspect is so. I mean, let me just add, because like you said, you have a lot of work that just comes to you. How frequently is that because it's someone you already knew?
Most of the time it's already been established clients, or I'll get like, hey, so-and-so recommended you, which audio engineer I work with a ton, Tom Johnson here in Indianapolis. I've been referring everyone to him because he's been a huge mentor of mine, has taught me quite a lot. So if you need audio in Indianapolis, reach out to Tom, please. He's a huge reason why I have the career I do here in Indianapolis. But yeah, going back to like the whole classroom thing is doing things outside of the classroom are going to help you with those conversations and networking and, collaboration in general.
Yeah. Well, and so you were a year younger than me at Ball State, right?
I graduated winter 2015.
Oh, you graduated 2015.
Yeah. I graduated a semester early.
Okay. Okay. Oh, so we were the same year then. Okay, yeah, because I graduated.
Technically, we would have been.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, then, so was your experience with the coursework, for me, once we got past our, like, the gateway courses, I was doing all the immersives. Like, I didn't do advanced video production or, like, I started doing field work as soon as I finished my gateway courses. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, after gateway, I took my advanced classes with Stan Sollers, and his big project was actually recording a band in studio. Yeah. So I got some experience with that, which I really appreciated. And then a lot of stuff was outside the classroom. Yeah.
We had our feet, not even our feet, we just got fully bodily thrown into the fire.
Oh yeah. And then like one of my advanced post-audio classes was with Rich, where we did the post-audio for the Ireland film. So in a way, I was also, I was a TA for that class, actually. So I was helping the audio students in that class do the post. Right. So in a way, it was kind of foreshadowing my current, position as a professor. Yeah. So it's all full circle.
So I have to ask then, and this is going to go over everybody's heads if they don't know who Rich is. Oh, yeah. Are you going to be wearing Hawaiian shirts in the classroom Rich, if you see this, we love you.
Yes, we love Rich.
My closet itself has gotten a number of Hawaiian shirts at this point.
Remember the rat party in
do,
Ireland?
I do.
We all walked into this pub wearing Hawaiian shirts, didn't let Rich know, but all the locals at Ireland were like, Hawaii.
Yeah. For those who don't know Rich, he was one of our professors at Ball State. I consider him my production mentor.
Yeah.
And he only wears Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
He knows this. I'm really good friends with his daughter because we were the same year. She says it. You can never miss Rich.
No, Rich is great.
Yeah, Rich is wonderful, very knowledgeable man. I do miss him. I need to give him a call.
Yeah,
how he's doing.
same.
I know he's on the road a lot with Meekum these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we could riff for hours just talking about days.
Oh
at Ball
my
State.
gosh.
That might be a different podcast episode.
Yeah.
But so we've talked about like the way you approach projects to kind of try and head off any issues before you get there.
Yeah.
The joke is always, we'll fix it in post, which is the word you never want to hear. The reality of it is, and again, this is from another podcast I listen to, but it's really true when you understand the process, fix it in pre.
Yes.
Is get everything done in pre-production so that you don't have those headaches or those nightmares when you're in production or in post. So how can clients, when you're working on a corporate piece, or really if you are on any project, what can the other crews or the other clients do to help the audio department to make your job easier?
First off, just consider audio in your decisions, because a lot of people think that, audio kind of goes on the back burner sometimes. And then you learn in post, the hard way. Unfortunately, I have dealt with creatives and some clients that have learned the hard way in post. So it's really a big discussion point, just thinking about, even like with G&E, not just shadows, but lighting. Sometimes, some lights are really loud with fans. Thankfully, a lot of things are switching to LED.
Thank God.
So, so sets aren't as nearly as hot either, because the worst part of my job is turning off the air conditioning on, 80, 90 degree days. I hate it too, but it saves so much time in post, because just a thing to put in here, like when you think of it, AC, the frequencies lie on the same range as people's voices.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, usually.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like kind of in the mids or the highs. So like if you have female characters on set and need to take the AC out, AI, it knows ones and zeros. It knows frequencies. It doesn't go, oh, this is a AC, this is fridge, let's take it out. Nah, I call it a game of frequencies. So that's why it's like you really have to.
Is that the new spinoff of Game of Thrones?
Yeah. The final season's way better. But
they have Dunkin' cups on set, not Starbucks.
Yeah, Dunkin', yes. But
not sponsored.
No.
Yet.
No, not yet. Matcha cups. But what were we talking about again?
What can clients do to help you in the process to make your job easier?
Oh, yeah. Just open communication, understanding, especially if it's a film, that audio can make or break your film, and it is over 50% in my view of just the audience's experience. And just having a creative discussion about audio, because a lot of people think that that's all for post and not on set, when those things should really start happening on set, which is a huge reason why I like doing both location and post. Or at least as you're filming, you already have a post team in mind, so that we can have discussions and things. And it's basically just a lot of communication, because as you know, not everybody does everything the same way. Everybody has their own quirks and stuff. I'm like, as long as it sounds good, like no one's gonna know what you did. Right. Just avoid ADR like the plague.
Right. Gotcha.
That's my thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, Pippin seems to have woken up from his nap.
Hey, Pippin.
I just want to say thank you again. This is our first podcast. Looking forward to many more conversations with other industry folks along the way. I'm so grateful for you taking this time, because
thank you.
At the time of this recording, you're moving to Savannah in like 3 days.
3 or 4 days, something like that.
So thank you so much for squeezing this in on
course.
such short notice. One thing we're wanting to start on the show is wrapping each episode up with like 5 really quick rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Things just kind of get to know you a little bit more. And maybe just a little something for anybody watching. So real quick, just rapid fire on these.
Yeah.
Who or what's your biggest inspiration in the industry?
Oh, in the industry. Oh, man. That's a really good question. There's a lot of really good, solid audio people out there. Post person just came to mind, Kevin O'Connell. He's an incredible re-recording mixer, one of the most sought out, and anything he does, like I want to see in the theater because I know it's going to sound solid. So in a way that also inspires me as well. And he's got a lot of videos with the Soundworks collection explaining what he does. Gotcha. So yeah.
Your favorite project or production memory?
Oh my gosh. I've done a lot the past 10 years. It's crazy to think. Well, I always mention Ireland because it was a really unique experience. Not everyone can say they got their start in a foreign country.
No.
And also I learned a ton because we had a lot of obstacles and stuff. Like I remember Rich
like
when
pigeons?
we got off. Yeah. When we got off the plane, Rich, to me and Abby Urbick, who was the other location audio person there, he was like, okay, just make sure you get really good reference for ADR because the wind was just insane there because, it's just a huge island, which later in post, one of the biggest compliments I got from Rich was a lot of things that I thought would be ADR'd don't need ADR.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'd have to say Ireland. Absolutely. I always bring it up. I think you'd say the same.
Yeah. That's hard to ignore.
Oh, yeah.
What's your dream project?
My dream project, man. Well, something I was thinking about recently is I've always worked on things for other people. And I've never really taken anything on creatively of my own before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So thinking about it, while I'm at SCAD, I know like the first year or so I'm there, I'll take a lot of time to adjust and build curriculum and things. But I have worked on a narrative podcast before called In Her Burning. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a dream of mine, is to write a narrative podcast and have like voice actors and stuff and whatnot. So because it was really cool to me creating a story sonically and not being restricted to what's on the screen. So to me, that would be a dream, something that's kind of been in my mind the past year or something. Like, hey, I want to do a narrative podcast of my own. It's just figuring out what story I want to tell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Production pet peeve.
Production pet peeve. Ignoring or just not caring about audio. Like if I ask for someone to be quiet more than once, mean me comes out because I'm like, you're, going to be causing a hassle in post, not just with time, but money as well. So I guess my biggest pet peeve there is just not really putting audio in the forefront. So.
And last, what advice do you have for any aspiring media professionals?
Just in general, in any...
Yeah. Anyone who's looking to get in this industry, current students or someone who they've wanted to do this all their life and they're thinking about taking that leap, what advice do you have for them?
Be willing to work. This industry is a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but also learning how to converse with people, have conversations, because you're going to be working with different people every day. Constantly be learning, be willing to learn, learn from your mistakes and get better. Get yourself on a multitude of different projects and things. If you just want to do film, if an opportunity comes up for a podcast or for corporate stuff and whatnot, you're going to learn something on everything you're on. So just stay as involved as possible, and also network. Even if you're working on something that doesn't pay that well or is free, you never know. You're going to network with someone that might get you on a higher paying project or something, because that's happened to me a number of times. So it's like always, treat people as your equal. And just.
Gotcha. Well, Liz, thank you again so much for
thank you.
joining me on the inaugural episode of Filmmakers Blend. You can find Liz online. Where can anybody find you?
Right now my websites are down since I'm moving and stuff, but my IMDb, just look up Elizabeth Wolford all of my films and projects. Most of them will be there. If not, just find me on Facebook or my Instagram. I'll have that all linked down. I post a ton of photos whenever I'm on set, when I'm allowed to post photos. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us, and looking forward to many more episodes of Filmmakers Blend.
Yes.
Looking forward to potentially future episodes of having Liz back.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Liz.
Oh, thank you. It was a lot of fun.